Okay, previously we looked at the term relations, and the idea behind relations is that you have two things that are being connected or paired together. For example, you could have couples, two people being paired together, and that would be and all this would be an example of a relation. You could also have numbers being paired together, and then this would be called a relation. This video is on functions, and what a function is it's a special type of relation. It's a relation that has a rule. There's a rule that you have to follow for a function, and that is each input can only have one output. So think of a Coke machine. When you push a button on the Coke machine, that's the input, and you should get the same drink each time. You should only get one type of drink when you push a button. For example, if you push the Coke button, you should get a Coke, and only a Coke. If you push the Sprite button, you get a Sprite. If you push Diet Coke, you get a Diet Coke. And then if you go back to, let me erase this here and change the color. If you go back to Sprite like you did before, you should still get a Sprite. It should be the same. So even though we wrote down the Sprite twice, that's okay because it's the same thing. You push the Sprite button, you get a Sprite. And that's what we see here. You push the Sprite and you get Sprite. And that means you have a function. Here we have an example of a relation that is not a function. Notice in this case, you push a Sprite and you got a Sprite, but the next time you push Sprite, you got Mountain Dew. This is not okay because you got two different outputs for Sprite. So when you push the Sprite button, you got two different outputs. And that's what it looks like. And here's what it looks like. Here you push Sprite and you either got a Sprite or you got Mountain Dew. When you get more than one output, then it is no longer a function. This is not a function. Here's what this looks like with some couples. Here you have Kanye, and he's dating only Amber, and you have Chris, and he's dating only Kim. That is okay. That is a function. Just like we have down here, a math example. Each of these functions has only, each of these inputs has only one output. So the 4 is only dating the A. So that is a function. Check. But in the second case here, you have an input, Kanye, who has two different outputs. That is not okay. So that is not a function. In math, it looks like this. You have a 3 that is dating both the B and the C. That's two outputs. That is not a function. Here's another example. Each input has only one output. The 2 only has a 16. The 3 only has the 24. So that is a function. In this second case, though, the 3 has a 24 and then it has a 29. The 3 has two outputs. So that is not a function. Now let me show you what this looks like on a graph. This situation is about pay. So you have you have a job that pays you $8 an hour. So let's say you work 2 hours like we did here. That means your pay should be $16, and there's a dot. And then the next time you work 3 hours and you're paid $24, and then you have another dot. That is a function. Now look what happens when you do not have a function. You have a 3 and a 5, and your pay can be 19, 24, or 40. So let's do one of those. Let's do the 3 and the 19. 3, 19, there's your dot. Let's do the 3 and the 24. And look what happens. If you draw a line up from the 3, you hit 2 dots. That's not a function. This is what it looks like on a graph. When you have a point, an input, and you can draw it up and down, and you get 2 outputs, that means that is not a function. You have 2 outputs. We call that a vertical line test. This is called the vertical line test. And so on this one, when you draw, if you have an input and draw your line, you only hit 1 output. That's okay. That is a function. This one, you had 2 outputs. You could draw a line up and down, not a function. Okay, here's some practice for you. For each of these, determine whether or not is a function or not. Complete the work and then hit pause, complete the work, and then hit play, and you can get the results. Okay, as you can see here, the 1 has 2 different outputs, so that's not a function. And same thing for the last one here, the 4 has 2 different outputs, so it's not a function. The first one is, this is okay. Even though both the 3 and the 4 have the C, the 3, when you push the 3 button, you get a C. So when you push the 3 button, you get a C. That's nice. And then when you push the 4 button, you get only a C, and that's it. So that is a function.